Well, people have asked me, Cy, was throwing the first pitch of the Modern World Series the highlight of your career? Well, as much of an honor as that was not my my moment, as you might say. That would come the next year, in the spring of 1904, in what many sports writers have called 5 games of pure baseball wizardry. Early May 1904. In the course of those games, I would pitch 44 consecutive innings of scoreless baseball. For 44 consecutive innings, no one got a run off of me. It's like 5 shutouts. In the middle of that streak were 23 consecutive innings of no-hit baseball. 23 consecutive innings, no one got a hit off of me. Again, that's like almost 3 no-hitters in a row. And right in the middle of those 23 innings was my perfect game. The date was May 4th, 1904. I'm pitching against the Philadelphia Athletics in Boston, and I would throw a perfect game. 27 batters up, 27 batters down. No hits, no errors, nobody got on base, and of course, no runs scored. I pitched to the absolute minimum number of batters you can face in a 9-inning game. 27. A gem. Not too many of those out there, let me tell you. But you know what? I didn't even know I was doing it. Oh, mind you, I knew I was pitching good, but I didn't realize it was a perfect game. You see, we were playing at the old Huntington Avenue grounds there in Boston, and they didn't have a scoreboard. If you came to watch the Boston team there, you bought your own scorecard. You kept score yourself. So I didn't realize it. Oh, like I said, I knew I was pitching good, and after about the 6th or 7th inning, when we would come in, I did notice that my teammates they kind of leave me alone down at the end of the dugout. They wouldn't talk to me. And when I went out to pitch, it seemed like the crowd, they're hanging on every pitch. Quiet, almost like holding their breath. But again, I'm just pitching. I've got my stuff. Honestly, I didn't realize it was a perfect game until I got the last out. And all of a sudden, everybody in the whole field, the stadium, they're cheering and they're yelling and they're rushing onto the field. But the first person to get to me, the very first person to get to me, was my first baseman. Nice fella named Candy LaChance. Candy come running over to me on the mound. He's got this biggest grin on his face. He goes, "Cy," he said, "no one came down to see me today." That's when I realized not a batter got on base. I had the perfect game. Well, let me tell you, that was a real honor. I would go on and pitch some more uh, no-hit innings after that. 6 innings into the next game, and some more scoreless baseball after that. But those 44 innings of scoreless baseball, 23 innings of no-hit baseball, and a perfect game right in the middle of all that, that was the real honor, and that was amazing. That was it, really. Now, I would continue to play for Boston for the next few years. Actually, in '07, we became the Red Sox. And I did real well. But I am slowing down just a little bit. I'm approaching my 40s. But I still have my stuff. Still had my stuff. In 1908, I had another no-hitter. It's my third no-hitter. It was against the Yankees. It was up in New York. It was almost my second perfect game. Yeah, almost. I walked the very first batter. Very first batter. Walked him on first to first base. But then I got the next batter to hit into a double play. So, and then I went on to pitch a no-hit baseball. So I did only face 27 batters that day. But technically it wasn't a perfect game because I walked the first batter. But close enough for me. Another great pitching gem for me. Now, Boston thought that was pretty amazing too. And later that year, in August, they had a special day for me in Boston. Cy Young Day. Did some amazing things that day. The American League, they canceled all the other games that day. And they put together a team of all-stars from all the other American League teams. They came to Boston to play the Red Sox and me in an exhibition game. It was quite something. Oh, we had fun too. When we went in, when before the game, everybody, all the players, they paraded. There was a parade, and they marched into the stadium in funny costumes. Of course, I was a farmer. What else could I be? But it was a wonderful day. There were speeches and there was gifts. Boston organization did something pretty amazing that day. That day, they gave Roba and I the entire gate receipts from that game. Over $7,000 they gave to us. I mean, can you imagine a team doing that today? Boy, I don't think so. But as nice as all that was, I think the greatest award for me was from those all-stars from the other American League teams. They presented me with a silver loving cup. On it was engraved, "From the baseball players of the American League to Cy Young, in appreciation of him as a baseball player and a man." And a man. That, my friends, is high praise for sure. So it came as a little bit of a surprise, but also not, but a little bit. The following spring, 1909, I get a letter, and I've been informed that I have been traded from the Boston team. Now, I knew I was slowing down, and so I kind of get that. And I will never say anything about Boston. The people of Boston are the greatest fans in the world, and the city has always used me so well. It's just, again, it's baseball. You get traded. So I am being traded to Cleveland. They're now the Indians by now. I'm going back to Cleveland. I got to tell you, if there was any place I would be traded to, it would be Cleveland. If I had to be traded somewhere, I was glad I was going back to Cleveland. It's close to home. And so, and again, they were so kind and gracious to me. And so for the next 2.5 years, I would pitch for the Cleveland Indians. But like I said, I'm slowing down. I'm in my early 40s. And so I'm not winning as many baseball games as I used to. In fact, I'm winning about half the games I pitch. Now, on the days I pitched, I still drew very good crowds. People would come to Cleveland Stadium to see me pitch. But I wasn't winning. And when you're in baseball and you're a pitcher, You need to win. And I just slowing down. So after 2.5 years, midway through the 1911 season, Cleveland let me go. And it's okay. It's time for me to go back to Tuscarawas County and become a farmer. And I've had a great run and a great career. So that was okay. But I hadn't any more gotten back to the farm in Pioli when there's a letter comes for me. A letter inviting me to come play baseball. A letter inviting me to finish the rest of the season in Boston. But not for the Red Sox. No, the other team, the Boston Braves. Again, the baseball gods are not done with me yet. I mean, again, of all places I would go back and play some more, it would be Boston because they got cool weather. Did I mention I like pitching in cool weather? I think I did. Well, anyway, again, the city just welcomes me with open arms. And so I would finish out the 1911 season with the Boston Braves. Again, win some, lose some, about half and half. Following spring, 1912, I'm invited to spring training for the Braves. And they go. But at that point, I realized, no, it's time, as they say, to hang up the spikes. And so, before the start of the 1912 season, I officially retired for good. Now, I could have stayed on as a coach or a manager, had offers, but I'm a farmer. I was ready to go back to Tuscarawas County, Ohio. And so that's what I did. And for the next 20 years, Roba and I had a very, very good life. Retirement was wonderful. I farmed, I raised sheep, I raised hunting dogs. All kinds of people would come to visit. They wanted to see my trophies, my uniform. They wanted to talk. They wanted to visit. Uh, Never lacked for company. I would go to some games. I would go to some Cleveland games sometimes. Uh, and I raised hunting dogs. Like I said, I would go on fox hunts, and I had my lodge, and it was all retirement was very, very good. I really like fox hunting, by the way. I had a During my retirement, I went on a fox hunt one day, and I met a gentleman there by the name of John Benedictum. John's a good guy, really good. We hit it off. We had a good hunt together, and I made a friend. Well, a few years later, they're putting in a new stretch of highway not far from my farm. So I go over to, supervise. Lo and behold, who do you think the foreman on the job was? John Benedictum. So we struck up a friendship again, and we did lots of things together over the next few years. We belonged to the same lodge. He liked hunting. He was a good friend. And his wife Ruth was another wonderful, wonderful person. And I realized how fortuitous that was when in January 1933, my dear Roba took sick very suddenly. And it wasn't but a little while, a month or two, and she was gone. Now, I'm forever grateful that John and Ruth, they moved in with us during those troubling times. And Ruth helped take care of my Roba in her last days. And that is something I will forever be grateful for. Well, once Roba was gone, I became very, very lonely. A little while later, John and Ruth bought a neighboring farm. They're want to live their own life. And so I rattled around in that big old house, and it wasn't right without Roba. It wasn't my house. If you remember, we bought her family farm. That was always her house. That was their farm. Just didn't feel right without her. So a couple years later, I sold the farm. But I had a plan. I joined up with a traveling old timers baseball team. And the idea was we traveled around the country and we would play an exposition game against the local team. People would pay to come out and watch the game and see the old time players and reminisce for a little bit. We had some fun times. But apparently people didn't want to reminisce as much as what we thought. The interest just wasn't there overall. So after just one season, the old timers team disbanded. Suddenly, I have nowhere to go. I have nowhere. I don't have a farm anymore. So I come back to Newcomerstown, and I live in the hotel over by the railroad tracks. And it's a lonely existence, let me tell you. I mean, in a hotel room and going and sitting out on the porch and watching the trains, and it's just, I'm a farm boy. The only time I was really happy is when John and Ruth would come to town and bring me out to their farm to visit for a day. Well, that Ruth, she's a pretty smart cookie, let me tell you. She saw what was going on. She saw how miserable I was. So one day, they came and got me, and we went out to the farm, and she said to me, "Si," she says, "how would you like to move in with us?" I said, "Are you serious?" She looked at me and she goes, "Si, as long as we've got a home, you've got a home." Well, boy, I packed up and I moved out there real quick. Oh, it was so good to be back on the farm again. And I wasn't the only new addition that year. John and Ruth, a few months after I arrived, brought a newborn into the world, Jane Benedictum. And oh, I tell you, she became the apple of my eye, that little girl. See, Roba and I were never blessed with children. So that gave me a chance to know what it was like to have a daughter. Oh, she is such a sweetie. Oh, I tell you. Now, I did earn my share. I did my part out on the farm. I chopped firewood. I shucked corn. I watched little Janie. We took a lot of naps together on the front porch. Yes, we did. And we had many grand adventures, that little girl and I. One time, when she was about maybe 2 years old, I bet, we were standing down by the barn. We're watching several pigs there in the pen. I don't know where it came from. The idea, don't know. All of us, I said to her, I said, "Janie," I said, "would you like to ride one of them?" Well, she squealed with delight, and the next thing you know, there I am, holding her on the back of a very mild-mannered hog. And we're walking around the hog pen. And she is just laughing and squealing. Oh, she had a good time. So those piggyback piggyback rides became one of our favorite things to do. Now, Ruth never said anything about those. But I did kind of notice that every time we'd be down at the hog pen having a piggyback rag, Ruth would be standing at the kitchen window doing dishes, keeping an eye on us. uh, Another time happened was, oh, I bet she was about 5 maybe. I'm half asleep there on the porch in the rocking chair, and all of a sudden I hear her crying, "Cy! Cy!" And I look, and they're coming across the farmyard. There's little Janie running, and behind her is a banty rooster with its spurs out, and he's going to get her. Well, let me tell you, I didn't realize old Cy could still move so fast. I jumped out of that chair, swooped her up with my one arm, and drop kicked that rooster with my foot. I do believe, if my memory serves me right, we had fried chicken that Sunday for dinner. I'm pretty sure we did. So I would continue to live with them, and oh, at one time I did leave for a little while. I got an invitation from a friend back in Boston, of course, Boston, and he owned a hotel, the Putnam Hotel, and he invited me to come over and live there and work there as a manager. And I thought, well, okay, it's Boston, maybe I'd like that. And again, all the people in Boston were glad to see me. But I quickly figured out that being a hotel manager is not the same thing as being a farmer. For one thing, you got different hours. You know, farmer, you get up early and you get your day in, and if you're a manager in a hotel, you're up way, way late. I could barely keep my eyes open. So a few months later, I am back on the farm in Pioli, and I am there to stay. And I am. That's where I'm at today. Oh, I continue to. I do some speaking engagements now, and I travel around. I still go to some games, and I like watching the Little League. Uh, the Indians had me up a while back. They were having a special banquet for Mel Harder, great pitcher, and he'd won his 200th game, so they had a banquet for him, and they invited me to guest speaker. I said, I made a nice speech, but I said, when I won 200 games, I didn't get a party, or 300. I won 400 games and I didn't get a party. I won 500 games and I didn't get a party. I guess they weren't party in time, so to speak. People have asked me, well, what about that record? 511 wins, more than anybody else. And that's a nice record. I'm proud of it. I worked hard for it. But it's a record. Records are made to be broken. Who knows? Maybe someday. Maybe someday. I would be honored. Another thing people like to ask me is, well, who was the toughest batter you ever faced? The hardest one to get out. Now that was easy. The hardest batter I ever pitched to was Ty Cobb. He was a great hitter. He was a mean SOB. Nobody liked him, but he could hit the baseball. So that was an easy one and everything. One of my favorite trips that I made a few years ago was I went to the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. I had been inducted into the Hall of Fame in the second class going in. Now, some people were kind of upset. They thought I should be in that first class of 10 people. Should have been in the inaugural class. Well, you know what? I don't care. I'm in. I'm in the Hall of Fame. Doesn't matter whether it's the first class or the second class. My name is on there with that plaque and everything. Now, that's a funny story. So I go to Cooperstown. I'm there, and I'm walking around. I get to my exhibit, and it's got some of my uniforms I'd given them, and baseballs and gloves, and it's a very nice exhibit. And there's some reporters standing around, and one of them says, well, what do you think? I said, well, it's a nice exhibit, and I'm pretty sure that's me they're talking about, but that name, it's not my real name. You see, the scroll beside the exhibit said my name was Denton Tecumseh Young. Tecumseh is not my middle name. My middle name is True. The True, I was named for a lieutenant that my father fought with during the Civil War. So it's Denton True Young. I don't know. Nobody knew where the Tecumseh came from. I did say, well, when I was one of the older players at Boston, a lot of the younger guys called me Chief. Maybe they thought I needed an Indian name. I don't know. They got it corrected. They got it corrected. So that brings me back to yesterday, Cy Young Day, which started back in March. My 80th birthday was back in March of this year. And again, as I mentioned before, the town threw a grand celebration for me. There was a parade. There was banquets. I mean, there were banquets. So many people came for the banquet. They had to have that in about 5 different places. Stouffer's Restaurant, the Methodist Church, Presbyterian Church, just high school, all over. And then we all came together at the high school auditorium for the program, for the celebration. And a lot of my former teammates were there, and they had a lot of wonderful things to say about me. And I tell you, it was very humbling to sit there. I didn't have a lot to say that night. I just soaked it all in. But the governor of Ohio came to that. Better. I voted for him. He better be there. But I guess the highlight of the evening was right before, well, they were getting ready to present me with that new car. And by the way, I don't know what an 80-year-old man needs with a new car. But yeah, maybe. I don't know. There's talk of maybe making a special license for Janie that she could drive me around. She's not eligible for a real driver's license, but maybe, I don't know. Anyway, they get ready to present this car to me. And Mr. Beck, Bill Beck, owner of the Indians, he's the one to give me the keys. So he stands up there, and this is before he did all the free ticket stuff, but he says, he made the announcement, Mr. Beck, he goes, Cy, before I give you the keys to this new car, I need to ask you something. He says, I might need some pitchers this spring. You suppose you could come up and help me out? I was ready for him on that one. I said, well, Mr. Beck, I believe I need to see the contract first. It was a fun evening, let me tell you. And it all accumulated yesterday with the Cy Young Day up at Cleveland. And as you can see, the uniform still fits pretty good, and it feels good to put it back on. But I think now it's time for me to, go take it off, and I think I got some hogs to feed. It may be a dog's ear to scratch. So, been very good visiting with you. I wish you a very good day. Thanks for joining me again, folks, on my YouTube channel. I hope that you like what you saw. Please be so kind as to give me a comment, a like, pass it along. If you feel up to subscribing, if you haven't done so already, that's even better yet. But thanks for listening. I enjoy sharing my tales.